Hey friends, welcome back to the 3, 2, 1 Leadership Podcast with me, Pastor Jeff. Season 2 is back and it starts right now. Let me tell you what this podcast is all about. We want to do one thing. Together, we want to find the current ceiling of our leadership and break through it, finding new levels of leadership that we never dreamt or was possible until now. And the thing I've learned in my many years of ministry and leadership is that most of our leadership ceilings are not external, they're actually internal. It wasn't a lack of money or people or resources or opportunity. It was often a lack of a system or a blind spot or just some new lesson that needed learned in our own leadership to take us to that next level. And so it's my joy and honor to spend some time with you and help you find that thing to grow into the next level of leadership. And I'm doing it right here with you. Today what I want to do is I want to talk about what I am sure everybody thinks is the funnest, most exciting, most wonderful, the most sought after leadership thing out there. The onboarding process. Oh man. That's probably the least sought after leadership content in many circles. And I want to change that. I want to help you enjoy, embrace, look forward to onboarding processes. What you might be thinking is hey, Pastor Jeff, like onboarding sounds like HR and paperwork and I don't know, mandatory video training that puts me to sleep and you know, all those things. You might be thinking, hey, Pastor Jeff, like, man, we don't have that in my organization. We don't have onboarding. And if you think of it as just this boring mandatory thing, or you think like, man, we don't do that, both of those are kind of the problem and kind of the point. In my experience, and if you have different experiences, and I celebrate you, but in my experience, onboarding is one of the most inconsistent parts of leadership, from person to person and organization to organization. You can have a great mission and clear vision and talented people, but a lot of times if we don't bring them on well, it can feel like you're just constantly just like working uphill to get them to live up to their potential. First impressions make a big difference. Onboarding makes a big difference. And what happens is your onboarding process, those first impressions, help that new person shape how they view their team, how they view their role, how they view you, as their boss or coworker or whatever. And it actually forms their view of their future with you. And so we want to get onboarding right so that those that we bring into our teams can thrive for years and years and years and years. And we don't want to plant seeds of burnout from day one. We want to plant seeds of longevity from day one. I'm going to use a couple cheesy rocket analogies and then I'll let go of them, but bear with me for a few minutes. Like picture a rocket on a launch pad. It's ready to go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off, right? And, the mission was planned. The crew's on board. Countdown went. They took off, but they were off by 1 degree, just 1 degree in the beginning. That 1 degree, by the time they get into space and get to wherever they're trying to go, they didn't just miss it by a mile. They missed it by thousands of miles by being off just 1 degree in the beginning. I think onboarding works in a very similar way. It's the way, like what onboarding is, it's really the way we launch somebody into our team and into our culture and into our organization and into what I would hope would be their calling, their career, like their future thing that you were empowered to bring them into. And so what we want to launch people well so they fly farther than they ever imagined. I don't want to be too negative in this, but like I said, it's it's probably one of the most inconsistent things that I've seen in leadership. In my own leadership, I've learned a lot of lessons by making a lot of mistakes. I've seen it in other people's leadership. I've seen it in multiple organizations, different jobs here and there. And so it's really, in my opinion, one of the most inconsistent things of leadership. And so what I want to do is today, and in part 2 of this podcast, I want to give you 3 key components to successful onboarding. I want to do 1 today and 2 in the next episode. And these are things that will be helpful for businesses, nonprofits, obviously church, which is, where a lot of this is geared towards my church family at Restore. Or it's even going to apply to just your small volunteer team. If you just have a small part of a bigger organization, these things are going to be helpful for your smaller team within that as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about what I'm calling the pre-boarding process. And then I have 2 more in the next episode, the orientation and training and ongoing care. But before I get into the pre-boarding process, I want to just have some fun with my little rocket ship analogy, stretch it a little bit farther, and I promise I'll let go of it because the podcast is 321 Leadership Podcast, not Mission Control with Pastor Jeff, even though I like that name. I like that name. So I want to talk about why onboarding is so important, and then that'll lead into the pre-boarding because I think it's really important to understand the why, especially when I think a lot of people want to just skip through orientation. They want to skip through onboarding. They just want to get it done and get people to work and get people moving. And again, I apologize if I have a negative or cynical view on it, but like I said, I think it's really inconsistent. So I just want to maybe over clarify just because of that. And so 3 what I would call maybe failed launches that I've experienced. Maybe we'll even throw a 4th one in there. And then we'll rock and roll and go into the pre-boarding process. And I'd love to hear, with due respect, don't out or name call any organizations you've worked for, volunteered for, but I'd love to just hear from you if you've experienced some of these. And I know in my leadership, I've put people through some of these, and I'm learning and correcting course as I go. But the first one, let me know if you've ever experienced the classic blast off and abandon onboarding process. Right. So this is like the deep end approach. And it's like I've been on both sides. I've done this to people, and I'm sorry if I've done that to you. And then I've had this done to me. It's like you show up on day 1, you're ready to serve, you're ready to help, you're ready to make a difference. And what happens? Someone just tosses a pile of tasks and basically says, there you go, champ, figure it out. Try not to break anything. Don't die. I'll check on you later. And then later turns into, 5 days. And you just spend the next several days hoping you didn't break the company, and laughing at this one a lot because it's just so true, and it feels overwhelming, right? You made mistakes you could have avoided with a little bit of guidance, and you learned how to do some things the wrong way, and then you're told you did the wrong way, but you did the best you can, and maybe you start wondering, like, am I supposed to be here? Like I don't know, like, and maybe those sounds are some of the feelings you have. The second one is the pre-launch lockdown. This one's kind of the opposite extreme. I've been in this one too. It's when the organization wants to be so thorough and so careful that before you can actually do anything, you're stuck in onboarding purgatory, right? Like you're filling out paperwork and signing forms and reading policies and watching videos and just for days or maybe even weeks before you're allowed to do anything. And it's like those are the worst 2 weeks of your whole life. And like you get traumatized from onboarding overload. You're just like locked down. Do not touch anything. Do not talk to anybody. Do not do anything. Finish all the orientation and training or else. And again, like the result is like maybe your passion fizzles before it ever even fired, and maybe your excitement turned into frustration, and then when you finally do launch, you're just so tired and disengaged. You're like, oh my goodness. Number 3, I would call it like the 2-day fire hose onboarding. Like it's like classic orientation weekend extravaganza. You take everything you need to know and you just cram it into like just one single giant block for a day or two. And then you stop back and say, hey, congrats, you're ready now. And go on, go do it. And what happens there is you can feel kind of overloaded, but really you just feel lost, and room full of energy for the weekend, sure, but not lasting impact. And so that one's complicated. It might be the best of the three here so far. The last one is the delayed launch. This one's rough. Here's how it works. Somebody starts working immediately. They were excited. They're showing up faithfully, but no one ever took the time to sit down with them to show them what they're actually supposed to be doing. And then they just kind of stumble forward, and they're trying to figure it out. And then like, this one's just, I don't know, I'm having so much fun with this one. And then weeks, maybe even month later, someone sits down and they say, hey, yeah, it's time for your orientation. And you're like, what? Oh, what? We do that here? You guys get orientation? What? And they're like, yeah, come on, we got to go do orientation. And you're like, I've been doing this job for a month. Like by this time, maybe bad habits are formed and frustration built up. And so why am I sharing all these examples with you and, being a little funny and a little quirky with them? I want you to show you each failed launch leaves a mark on the new person to your team. And like, this is why onboarding matters. Like, it doesn't just affect their first day. It actually affects and shapes the way they think, the way they serve, the way they lead, the way they participate, the way they contribute or don't for years to come. And those first few moments with a team will create a powerful story in someone's mind of like what kind of trust they do or don't have, what kind of alignment they do or don't have, what kind of expectations they do or don't have, or what kind of doubt or disconnection or eventual burnout that they're going to have. A lot of that starts on day one. And so onboarding matters so much. And if you don't have an onboarding process or you haven't looked at it lately, I would really encourage you to examine it. And what I want you to start doing is I want you to start not just thinking about onboarding through orientation. I want you to start thinking about pre-boarding. What's pre-boarding? Well, that's what I'm going to teach you with most of our time today, and then we'll build on this in the next episode. So what is pre-boarding? Well, pre-boarding is everything that happens before day one. In fact, it's everything that leads up to day one. So their initial inquiry about working on your team, serving your team, working in your place of employment, serving your organization, whatever it is, their initial inquiry about that, their interview, their application leading up to their interview, their second interview, if you do second and third interviews, all that is part of the pre-boarding process. And what you can do is don't just think about it as an interview or an application. Think of it truly as part of your pre-boarding process. What I want to do is I want to show you this in a really, really, really powerful way. The typical interview mindset, which I've struggled with, and I'm really only semi-recently learning a lot of this myself. The typical interview mindset is built out of what? Skepticism. It's built out of skepticism. We sit down across the table from one another, and we're trying to figure out, are they good enough for my team? Do they have the right skills for my team? Are they worth the investment of bringing them on the team and spending the time to train them and grow them? And I want to be honest and I want to be fair about this. Like, technically, that's the point of an interview. An interview is a vetting process to bring the top candidates into an organization. And if there's lots of candidates, you obviously want to sort through that list of candidates and get the best candidate on your team to do the best job. So that's technically the point. You should be discerning who should or should not be on your team. And you don't want to put somebody in a role that'll set them up for failure. So you actually, when you think about onboarding somebody and pre-boarding them, you likely only give an opportunity to somebody that you think will bless them. I don't want people on my team, and you surely don't want people on your team if it's not good for them. You want to give them an opportunity or a role in your organization that will bless them. And so you want to make sure they're a good fit because you actually want to care for them as well. And so with all that being said, generally the vibe of an interview is prove yourself to me, to be clear and to be caring. But pre-boarding flips the script on that. Instead of seeing interviews as a hurdle for people to clear, you start seeing them as on-ramps into your mission. You have a different assumption. Here's how pre-boarding mindset changes everything. Everyone I meet is a potential future member of my team. Everybody that is interested in my team is a potential future member of my team, rather than we'll see if you're good enough to be on here. We'll see if you're good enough to be on here. No, they're a potential future member. Maybe it's in the role they're inquiring about. Maybe it's in the role that's open, but maybe it's not that role. Maybe it's a future role that we don't have an opening in yet. But they're a potential future member, and so I investigate things, I check them out, and then I realize oh, yeah, absolutely, slam dunk. This person's awesome, right? But maybe not for this role. They're just awesome for another role. See, when you adopt this mindset, everything changes. So the conversation isn't just about evaluating them. It's actually about preparing them. Hey, you're a potential member of this team. So then your interview can now be preparatory rather than just, a filter to see if they're good enough. And so then you start to think, how can I help them understand who we are so they are certain and so they're confident they want to be part of the mission? How can I set them up to thrive, whether it's here or somewhere else? How can I care for them to the best of my ability? And then at the end of the process, even if they're not the right fit for the role, you still win by saying hey, this isn't the best role for you right now, but I really, really enjoyed you. And I think that you are probably a good fit for our organization. Why don't we look for a different role that is a better fit for you in the future? Why? Because they really are a potential future part of your team. And you honor that person with clarity and dignity. You built trust that keeps the door open for the future. You've already pre-boarded them to some degree during the interview, so they know more about who you are and they know what kind of expectations, and likely you have this mindset, you're probably going to be a little impressive, and they might have a greater desire to be part of your team. And so you laid a groundwork for whoever does step into the role to have a smooth and consistent process waiting for them as well. So you did a lot of amazing things by having a pre-boarding mindset. Now, when you start thinking this way, interviews stop being awkward auditions and they start feeling like conversations with future teammates. Okay? So you think about the difference in tone. Old mindset, convince me you belong here. New mindset, let me show you what this team's about, and together we'll figure out the best way for you to contribute. Two way different mindsets, same situation, an interview. Okay? And so when you approach people like this, you reduce the fear and anxiety of the person you're interviewing, which allows them to interview more freely and be clearer about who they are. You start creating alignment before they even join the team. And then you make sure that no conversation is wasted because even a no today could still be a yes tomorrow. This is a win-win. And then the right candidate gets clarity before they start. The not quite right candidate still gets to walk away valued and informed. And so here's what I would help you do. I'm going to give you a framework for this. I'm going to help you do a pre-boarding. You don't need dozens of steps in a complicated system. It really boils down to three main things: fit, freedom, and fuel. Fit, freedom, and fuel. Fit, you make sure they're the right fit for the role. Not just prove yourself that you're good enough. No, I just want to make sure I can give this to you with a clear conscience that it's good for you and us mutually. Make sure they fit the role. And then you clarify what kind of freedom they have. What can they own and what can they decide and what do they need permission for? And then you give them fuel. You connect their role to the bigger mission so they're inspired to serve. You'll do a lot of these things at orientation in a deeper way. You do a smaller version of this at your interview to make sure that you have pre-boarded them. So let's start with the first one. Fit, the right person in the right role. One of my favorite books, Good to Great, it talks about having the right seat on the bus. Okay? When it comes to fit, one of the easiest mistakes to make, especially in my world where it's church and volunteers and the nonprofit sector, is a lot of times it's there's a lot of pressure to just, fill a role based on willingness, right? When someone raises their hands and we think, all right, perfect, somebody with a pulse, let's get them in here, right? And they're excited, they're willing, we're desperate, and so hey, willingness is what we look for. If you're willing, we'll take you. But willingness isn't the same as fit. I would rather leave a spot vacant and struggle than to put someone in a role that doesn't fit. Because like I said, numerous times in our time together today, it's unkind to them, and it's going to cause long-term headaches to you as well by treating it this way. So willingness says I'm available. Fit says I'm wired, I'm gifted, and I'm passionate about this role and its responsibilities. And so we avoid a lot of frustration for both parties when we focus on fit. Let's play this out a little bit. Imagine somebody who does not enjoy working with kids at all, but because they love your church and they want to help, they say yes to serving in the nursery. And when I say they don't enjoy kids, like don't think like super negative thoughts, like they hate children and they're monsters. I'm saying they just really don't enjoy kids very much. And then you put them in the nursery and you fast forward and they're exhausted and the kids aren't thriving. And now what happened is they feel bad because they quit the team, but they're avoiding church altogether because Sunday feels like dread rather than joy. And you have this really stressful situation, right? That wasn't kindness. That was kind of a sense of cruelty. But it doesn't just hurt the team. It hurts the person and their spiritual growth as well. And so you can look at fit in three ways. So I've got three things: fit, freedom, and fuel. But we're still in fit, and so we're talking about three things within the three things. Okay, we call it the 3x3 rule. So 3 ways to assess fit. So you'll have 9 questions total by the end of this podcast. So why this? So why this specific team? Why now? Why step into this opportunity in this season of life? And why us? Why do you want to serve with this particular organization or our church versus some other church? So why this? Why now? Why us? And that's going to really help you assess fit. When they start explaining their why, you're really going to know if you feel like they're a good fit for your culture and your team and your ambitions, and you'll have a really clear understanding of if what you have is good and healthy for them when they talk about their why. Why this? Why now? Why us? Number 2, freedom. Well, freedom, this is clarity that builds confidence. So what you want to do in your pre-boarding, after you establish fit and you go farther into your pre-boarding process, then what you want to do is they don't just need to know what to do, they need to know what they have permission to do. So if you only explain the responsibilities without the freedom, they're going to either freeze up and constantly come ask for your approval because they're afraid of overstepping, or you'll get frustrated because you assume they take the initiative and they assume they weren't allowed to. So this creates kind of like a lose-lose situation. And so again, 3 things you want to clarify for them. You want to kind of, I would say it this way, 3 lines of authority. 3 lines of authority. You own blank. And list what they have ownership over. Like, these are the things that are fully yours. I appointed you to this role, to this team, to this position. I appointed you to this, so you have ownership of this. You are responsible for them. And maybe you show them some general guidelines on how you want them to own it, but then you let them own it. Maybe you spend some time training, but we're still in pre-boarding process. We haven't trained them yet. You're just saying like, hey, if you had this role, here's what I want you to have ownership of. And then within that, you say you can decide blank. These are decisions you can make independently. You own blank and you can decide blank in your ownership of it. And then the third thing you want to clarify with them is you must ask about blank. Here are the boundaries. Here are the types of things that you need to check in with me or your direct superior, whoever. You got to check in with them first. Defining these 3 lanes gives them confidence to do their role well. And you don't just think about this with like high level roles. You think about this with like really entry level roles. I think if we do more of this at more entry level roles, then we really equip them to get better at higher level roles quicker. I think that helps actually create like a natural sense of leadership development even at the lower levels of the organization. So they're not just workers anymore, they're leaders because they understand what they have ownership and what they can decide and how to respect boundaries. Then the third one is fuel. You want to connect the role to the mission. People need to know why what they're doing matters. Knowing why matters. Start with Why is a really, really good resource. Probably one of my favorite books of all time to talk about why matters. And this is kind of a funny statement, why matters. If you appointed them to a role, it's because that role adds value to the team, to the organization, to your life, to their life. And sometimes people don't naturally see why it's so important. And so you want to fuel their mission. What you're doing matters. Well, I feel like I'm not doing a lot. You might feel like that, but if you didn't do this, then they couldn't do that, and then they couldn't do that, and then they couldn't do that, and then, by the way, I couldn't do that if they weren't doing that and that and that and that. And like you can trace it down over to however it makes the mission move forward. Let me kind of give you a little bit of examples of this, and we'll kind of pull it more together. Like task level is saying, hey, you're in charge of running the coffee station. But mission level thinking is like this. It's you're creating space where someone might meet Jesus for the first time. And because of that, what I want you to do is to make this coffee counter the most hospitable place on planet Earth. That was a lot of words, and whoever's running that team will have a clearer way of phrasing it, but it matters. You're not just serving coffee Sunday morning at church. Same thing with like maybe a camera operator. What you're doing matters so much? Well, just so that the message and music's live stream. No. You're creating a long-term catalog of our hard work and resources so that we have a library of life-changing and life-transforming resources to share with people for years and years and years to come. And whatever you're creating actually creates opportunities for someone else on the team to make more content that is shareable all around the world so that thousands and millions and billions of people could potentially hear the gospel and have their souls saved forever and ever and ever by Jesus. Like, you're not just operating a camera, you're part of the mission. And we could go on and on and on and on through that. Well, why is what you're doing matter? Why is what you're doing matter? And so there's kind of 3 vision sentences you could put in there. So remember I said each one's going to have three questions for fit, 3 lines of authority, and then 3 vision sentences. You could say it this way. You could say, this role matters because blank. And you could also say within that, a win looks like blank. Well, what's a win look like? Well, a win looks like, I don't know, give me a team to think about. A greeting team at a church. I've just got church examples today. Sorry, business world. Greeting team at church. What's a win look like today? 100% of the people here got a handshake or a high five or a fist bump, and nobody got missed. That could be an extreme win. You need to decide within your team what a win looks like. But your role matters because of this. A win looks like this. And the third vision statement is when you serve, people experience blank. So when you serve, like, hey, the vision is for people to feel peace and hope and joy. Whatever it is, you can insert your own stuff there. But this is one conversation that you get to put all these things together, and you're pre-boarding the people. While you're interviewing them, you're also preparing them to be bought in, to take ownership of the mission and vision, and invest in the organization, the team, and the mission with you for the long term. So let's review, and then we're going to kind of have an abrupt ending in this podcast because a good chunk of it is in the next podcast. But I've given you a lot of information for today, so we're gonna put a pin in it in a minute, and then pick it up next time. Really quick though, review. What do we have? We are going to pre-board people. We're going to set standards and expectations of greatness and excellence right on the front end before they're even on the team, because they are a potential future member of your team one way or the other. Not here, maybe they're somewhere down the line. What are we going to do? We're going to look for fit, we're going to look for freedom, and we're going to give them fuel. We're going to look for fit, we're going to give them freedom, and we're going to give them fuel. You have 3 questions for each one. Fit is why this, why now, why us. You have 3 lines of authority. You own blank, you can decide blank, and you must ask about blank. You have 3 vision statements. This role matters because a win looks like, and when you serve, people experience that. Pre-boarding isn't just about filling slots. It's not just a nice way to talk about interviewing and onboarding. It is a long-term investment in your organization, your team, and the people that come across your path that you can care for, because everybody is a potential future member of your team. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to the 321 Leadership Podcast. Like, comment, and share. It is my joy and honor that you would invest just this little bit of time in this content and let me invest a little bit of this time into your life. I love you to pieces. I believe that Jesus was and is the best leader to ever walk the face of this earth. And when we grow in our leadership, we might find ourselves becoming just a little bit more like Jesus. And that's what I'm all about. And I want to help you get there too. So let's get it next time. Peace.